You're listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series.
Welcome to the microphone. Welcome to the studio. Supreme Court Judge David Ashton Lewis.
As always, thank you, Colin. And for those listening, thank you for listening to us.
Well, we have been putting together a series over the last couple of weeks, and we're discussing the foundations of democracy. We've gone all the way back to Aristotle, I think Plato, I'm going to get the term wrong.
Epistemology.
Epistemology, and the study of man's interaction with alcohol.
Yeah. No, it's not.
If you've missed any of these shows, they're all online at 4crb.com for you to review. Yeah. And we're going to continue our discussion today on Plato.
Yeah, and just as a little before we do, I'm just surprised that we've had such support for these shows.
I don't understand your surprise.
Well, I mean, look, how many people even know of Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, and if you know of them, how many people, even my age, have read about them? Yet, and it's made me wonder in the shows that we've been doing, why? Well, Plato was 420 BC, and Aristotle was his pupil.
Yes.
Why was there thinking like that developed these concepts that we've been speaking about?
And I think that's the point, though, David. I think people appreciate understanding the fundamentals, the foundations of where we are today, and how the wonder that is democracy could be. If I look at Australian politics today, and in my own humble opinion, yes, I sit there and see an absolute train wreck with what I see in the media. Yeah. One Nation, Liberal and Labor. Labor seem to be doing something. And whether that's right or wrong, that's yet to be seen. But on the flip side of the coin, over the past few years, we've been stuck in the mud around here.
Well, see, isn't it funny, again, we who were raised in a democracy, your statement, Labor seem to be doing something, and you've, by inference, that no one else is doing anything. Now, I think there's an element of correctness in that, but to me, I would have gone further. While Labor may be doing something, it's all not achieving anything. It's wrong. I mean, we in Western democracy are facing, probably in Western Europe and in the United States, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, we're facing, I believe, and I have a reasonable knowledge of history going back to the Peloponnesian Wars, which were before Plato and Aristotle, and the writings of Herodotus. And he chronicled that the wars between the Persian Empire and Greece, and that at the Battle of Thermopylae. And he was an observer, and he chronicled it. So I do believe Western thought and Western democracy is probably facing the greatest challenge it's ever faced. Why? Because those challenging it, I would debate with any of them how much of Plato, Aristotle, Herodotus, how much of this stuff have you read and understand? Because if you have, what on earth are you doing? Now, we're seeing the start of pushback. You know, I'm listening to shows saying, I'm not going to apologise for being English. We created the greatest empire the world has ever seen. We gave to these places, we gave the rule of law, parliamentary democracy, because parliamentary democracy is not basic Nigerian culture. Now, they might be Nigerianising it, but it's not their culture. It's not Indian. It's not Pakistani. It's not the African migrants and slaves who came to the West Indies. So when I hear an Englishman saying, I'm not going to apologise for that, we built the greatest empire. We were the people who first abolished slavery in modern times, and yet the ignorance of people is attacking it.
Let me pose this question to you, David. Should we be apologising for our history or our past?
No.
Now, for me, I feel that if I have wronged you, if I have hurt you personally myself,
yes,
you deserve my apologies.
Yes.
But if I look back and say, as an Australian, we did this to the Indigenous culture. We did this to a certain segment of the community. We learn from those mistakes and decide as a society or as Australians that was right or wrong, and we make sure that we never do it again. Or we make sure that we build upon it if it was right. Apologising for something in the past, okay, well, how far do you go back? As you and I both talk about, in 1066, the Normans steamed across the Channel and decimated England.
Well, they didn't decimate it, but they stopped a major part of Anglo-Saxon Celtic culture.
Should these people be apologising for that?
I know.
So, again, we just need to learn from the lessons of the past and apply them to where we are today. And I think that is the lesson that we want to take away from most things.
Well, Pauline Hanson is speaking today to the National Press Club.
I agree.
It will be interesting to see what the outcome of that is, and what modern press will say of her performance. We'll have to wait and see.
It's the first time in her 40-odd year career in politics that she's been invited. I find it quite interesting.
She went into politics 1991 or 3, and she's just been castigated as a dumb fish and chip shop owner from Ipswich.
Well, it's funny how the dumb fish and chip shop owner, or the pub tester, let's call it,
yes,
because I'm a big fan of the pub tester, can seemingly get the fundamentals right. And while I understand that in the minutiae there is a lot of detail that needs to be worked out, but you know what? We've known since the 80s that we're coming up to some power problems and we really should be doing something about it. What have we done? No, we're not going to do much of anything.
We're going to find out at the next election, because One Nation is going to challenge virtually every seat in Australia for the parliament. They're going to put up candidates in Albanese's seat, in Burke's seat, in Bowen's seat, in Katie Gallagher's seat, and these people will obviously have to take note, because I've noticed in my lifetime the divide is getting greater between urban city, like Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and the vast outback.
Or even if you want to call it the rich and the poor, mate, because at the end of the day, if I talk to the younger demographic of this country, and my son is in that component as well as a lot of his friends, just feels like that the governments are supporting those who have done very well in life, and there's not a lot of incentive for those people to even contemplate a house at $1 million, because it is just so far out of reach when you're starting out.
But that is a government function to control, and to, not like in a socialist state, but to control economically that. And pouring in 500,000 immigrants over the last 2 years.
When you don't have anywhere to house them.
Well, you've got to find somewhere to house them. And a lot of those immigrants are not poor. They are economically wealthy Chinese, Indians who are looking for a better life.
Sure.
And they see that there's a better life in Australia. Now, there's related problems from that, which we won't go into today, such as losing our culture. But that can be another topic. But what the point is, a government's job, its first job, is to represent the citizenry of that country. Now, Nathan, you say, he's your 21-year-old son. Now, the opportunity that he has in front of him compared to 1971 when I was 21 is vast, is different. But you can't fix things by going back. You have to fix things by going forward responsibly. Now, people talk about Pauline Hanson, a fish and chip shop owner. Yeah, well, Ben Chifley was a train driver. He drove big locos. I mean, so where did he get the brains to be a Prime Minister, and Pauline Hanson doesn't have them?
That's right.
Yes. Now, we go back to Plato.
Yes, and again, this is a great example. Let's go back to Plato because, again, they didn't get the understanding or the knowledge that they gained or that they utilised to formulate the foundations of democracy by running off to
Right. I've been thinking a lot on this. Why in 420 BC in Greece were people like these three philosophers, and there were others we won't do because these are the three main ones who were picked up 1700, 1800 years later by Voltaire, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and the development of modern Western democratic government. But we go back to these three. Now let's have a look at what they lived in Greece. And Greece was surrounded by basically warlike nations where the certainty of life was nowhere near to what we have today. I mean, we've not fought in a major war for 80 years, whereas every generation before, my grandfather, the Western Front, Gallipoli, my father, the Pacific, and most people's fathers, when I was a teenager, were all ex-war veterans. Now, but we've had it so...
And that bound them together, mate.
Oh, it did. It
gave them a common thread, a common foundation, and a common way of viewing the world.
So the point I'm making is, does it, when you live in uncertainty, cause you, gee, I better think? Whereas once you become comfortable, and I've said this on the show before, we are a spoilt people. We are a spoilt nation with our massive wealth that we had in the past, that we still have, most of it in the ground though. We've become a bit corpulent in body and in mind because, hey, you know, we're a rich first world country. Whereas those Plato, Aristotle and Socrates were lived in times of uncertainty and had to think, why are we different from the Persians?
Well, look, I also put it down to the level of distractions too, David. I mean, they had conversation and a book. They're the two. They could go off to a play. They could go and listen to some music. What do we have today? We have the football on, we have the television on, we have the radio on. Social media is huge. The amount of times, and I love the term death scrolling, where it's scrolling for the sake of scrolling through social media. It's mind-numbing drivel. Now, when you think of these people who just had books of learning, now you've got to remember that...
Well, not even book. They had to go and find some orator who could speak like Aristotle.
So you spend a lot of time, if you read Marcus Aurelius's diaries, there's a lot of contemplation over mortality.
Yes.
Or looking at other people and they're bound by exactly the same things that pull us in different directions, whether it is the 7 deadly sins or the gifts.
Can I stop you because you've just touched on a really important point. Marcus Aurelius speaking about mortality. How many people today have stood out, looked over 100 acres of shattered, hacked corpses lying dead on the ground because there's just been a huge fight between Romans and some other group? If anything is going to make you think about mortality, life after death, is looking at all these dead bodies just lying there, some with an arm hacked off, some headless corpse there. And there'd been a huge battle there a day before or 2 days before. That nothing will encourage thinking more than that.
And look, one of the things that I saw recently on a documentary that I watched, and it was about how information travelled in earlier times. Nowadays we turn on the television and we can see it.
Yeah.
But in those days, they stood on a box and there would have been a crier who said, friends, Romans, countrymen,
lend me
your ears. I have news from afar. Julius Caesar is extending the empire. And he has vanquished an army, and there will be riches and farming land and all sorts of things coming our way. Now, hear those words. Very sweet, honeyed potion, isn't it wonderful, patriotic, And then you go to the archaeology, and they took us off to the archaeology, and here are men, women, children with spears. They've got holes in their head and caved in.
Yes.
Nowadays, we see that on television and there's an outcry. Oh, my goodness gracious me. We've got to stop this immediately. The humanity of it.
Yes.
We're standing on a box, friends, Romans, countrymen. We're extending the empire, but you don't see or hear of the horror.
You don't. And I think you've touched on it. I think I've been contemplating all week. Why in 420 BC in Little Athens did these men think like this? What encouraged them? Now, I think you've just articulated it perfectly, that life was unbalanced, unsure. You could be alive tomorrow and 2 days later dead because some group have raided in saying we're just going to, like Attila the Hun, raged across what is today Poland, North Germany, and just slaughtering and taking. And so empires come and go. Life comes and goes. And man still has not reached, and this is what the Platos and the Voltaires and the Jean-Jacques Rousseaus tried to encourage in people. Don't just get caught up in success. Ask why we have had these raids and this mass killing. Don't just see the victory. Evidently, I've read eyewitness accounts of the battlefield of Napoleon in Russia, and talking about how dreadful the battlefield looked 3 days on when Napoleon Bonaparte has moved on, but the locals had to go out, and I've seen it even closer. I've seen what the photographs taken of the Gettysburg battlefield on July the 4th, the day after the Confederates withdrew. There was 28,000 dead bodies and a few more thousand wounded, 50-odd thousand altogether, in a size of 400 acres.
Yeah.
And the people had to go out because it was the middle of summer. The locals, the farmers, had to go out and bury the bodies because evidently the stench was terrible.
Yes.
And the bloated corpses. Now, if anything should get you thinking, it's seeing that. But what happens is, for all the thinking that gets done, all the learning that gets from it is very quickly forgotten until the next time you're my enemy, I'm going to take you down.
Look, it's interesting, and again, I'll go back to the diaries of Marcus Aurelius, and one of the statements that sticks in my head is his observation of Parliament, and he said it was the same play, different cast.
Yes.
And then he expanded on the cast. The expansion on the cast was they're all governed by the same mortality. They're all governed by the same 7 deadly sins, the same spiritual gifts, and all of those things are pulling at them in certain directions. Yes. Some will succumb to greed. Some will be the pillars of society and want to drag our society in the right direction. Yes. What is the true path, and how do we ensure that Parliament maintains its true path? Now, that was the posed question, and I thought, well, that's a very, very interesting. They didn't
have Parliament in Marcus Aurelius, but it was like
they called it
the Senate.
The Senate,
yeah, and that was made up of people in the position. So yes, what you're driving at again is correct. But this animal, you say we are, smarter than everything else, can put people, on the moon. Can do all these different things, but the one thing they cannot do and haven't done to date is put peace in front of everything. You go to a Palestine supporter and then an Israelite and see how much they have in common. Well, they have a lot. They're human beings. They love their children. They want to live in peace. But
why is it that the human condition always wants to have some sort of enemy or some sort of lower grade of human that they need to look upon? And all the way through society, all the way through our history, we have this.
I don't think they want to have an enemy, but I think it's one of those 7 deadly sins called greed. I want what you've got.
Yeah, okay.
I want your land.
See, if I look at it this way, if we take the Black America, yes, no, they're terrible. They need to be subjugated.
Yes.
Don't let them congregate in the same bars or eat in the same venues that we do. To a point, the females in our society for a long period of time were a different class of human. They couldn't vote.
Yes.
They didn't have the same rights. They couldn't earn the same wages that you and I did. So you look at the human condition and go, wouldn't you want to promote everybody to be the same? But we don't.
No, we don't. And that, again, is the nature of the beast known as man.
Yes.
And mankind. And so we still have not been able to reach the point of international peace.
Plato. We need to get back to Plato.
No, we've been. These are types of questions that Plato was looking at.
They were wrestling with.
Yeah, that's a better point. They were wrestling with and trying to teach in little Athens about all these fundamental aspects of the human condition.
Correct.
And then Plato, Aristotle and Socrates as well have added, not only do we try to understand that human condition, but how is that condition governed? How does it govern itself? That's a personal thing. And that seems to be a reason why we had God, because I can only get the truth from God. Those beautiful words in Proverbs of that, what is it? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Now, who's the him and the he? Of course, it's an unseeable, untouchable being, if you wish, called God. We always had to appeal to something higher because, and this is what those 3 Greek philosophers knew and tried through their teaching to encourage, probably a losing game still today, but tried to encourage men rise above
themselves,
your humanity and yourself, because if you do that, women will be completely equal. Colour of skin will have absolutely nothing to do. And so this is all relevant to what they were teaching and speaking on. And yet, here we are, 2,500 years later, still failing the exam.
Well, I love that example there, David. All right, we are at the end of the program. Yes. It often runs this way, doesn't it?
Yes,
and we'd still have more of Plato to cover, so that will continue on next week in our fundamentals of democracy.
And Ollie tells us we haven't done Aristotle. I was mistaken. I thought we had. So we've got 2 weeks of Aristotle coming up.
It's a great discussion. I'm hearing from a lot of people that they're enjoying the discussion, which is great. And look, it's the fundamentals of who we are. We wrestle with it in our daily lives. Yes. Religion can be, if you look at it in a certain light, is exactly the same way. Yeah. It challenges us to be better than who and what we are.
Most definitely. And we've never totally reached it, but that's no excuse for ever giving up.
David Ashton Lewis, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Colin.
You've been listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series. Support local online content and become a financial supporter today at 4crb.com.